Hi, this is Cynthia. I'd like to talk about curiosity. It's really popular to talk about curiosity right now, and so many people are shining light, from people who study curiosity to thinkers, philosophers, inspirational, like psychology, science, and it's a worthy thing to be looking at. From my perspective, curiosity is the definition of the divine feminine. Curiosity is what happens when we start to unbind, start to open up our perspectives, because it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to compress our curiosity, to be told, don't think, don't question, sit down and listen. This is part of our conditioning, and this is part of the patriarchy of spirituality. Don't question, don't ask, just absorb. And then once we've developed this core idea, once we've been taught a core theme around a philosophy, a tradition, a science, it doesn't matter what it is, but once we've developed this core idea, those core ideas are umbrellas. And now all of a sudden we can enter into the whole language of a tradition, a science, a religion. And once we've accepted one core idea, we can start to build an entire worldview around that. And that's a crystallization. That's a movement toward becoming an expert. And the more we become an expert, the less curious we become, the less available we are to, I really don't know. Let me investigate this again, and let me investigate it again, and let me follow this sort of uncomfortable place. So rigidity, condensation, crystallization into either a core belief or an umbrella of core beliefs lives in direct opposition to curiosity. Curiosity is the ability to unbind that tendency within us. Curiosity is the ability to touch an edge of a thing, and there might be discomfort in that edge. There might be temperature at that edge. There might be a quality like a speeding up or a slowing down, but like a kind of shimmering, pulsing. A lot of anxiety might be at that edge. A lot of sensory perception might be at that edge. There might be old stories there. And to touch those edges of belief and to investigate them, to really look at them, as opposed to just accepting and becoming more and more of an expert, to take our expertise and constantly be willing to say, hey, is this still true and valid? And is it sitting on a bias? And has that bias served me? And maybe it is. Maybe our core beliefs, maybe the beliefs that we come into the room with are serving us. Maybe that's what's allowed us to be accepted by a community. But curiosity unbinds, unfetters. And I say curiosity is an amplifier, because whatever curiosity touches is amplified by its own selfness. When curiosity touches grief, it doesn't color the grief. It allows the grief to get a little bit bigger and a little bit more interactive. And this is in direct contrast to other qualities. And let me just describe that. Because if grief itself were to touch one of our thoughts or emotions, it would color that thought or emotion with grief. You might notice this even more with anger. When you're frustrated or angry, if your anger or frustration touches a thought, even a simple, oh, this is what I have to do today, that frustration or anger is going to most likely color your experience of that moment. And so we know what it's like for a thought or emotion to touch and impact the rest of our lives, our thoughts, our emotions, our sensations, our perceptions, and our memories. Curiosity is transparent. Curiosity doesn't do that. Curiosity doesn't impose itself on anger, on grief, on frustration, on joy, on really on any of our thoughts, emotions, sensations, or perceptions or memories. What curiosity does is it amplifies them. It unties them from those expert associations. That's where the power of curiosity is. It brings vibration into a system and it counters expertise. Now, there's nothing wrong with being an expert, but it is a position. And it's a position that if it lacks curiosity, if we're no longer willing to sit with the curious, to sit with an opposite, for example, something in direct opposition to that expertise, if we're no longer willing to entertain an opposite, then we can be pretty sure that there's no curiosity left, that somehow we're using a lot of our energy to compress our curiosity and hold ourselves in place. It takes a lot of energy to do this. It takes a lot less energy to be curious. And it makes us more available. It makes us more complex. So when I say that the divine feminine is curiosity, curiosity itself is that quality of unsolidifying, of bringing pulsation back in. Because the way that I describe the divine masculine is in the ability to be total transcendence, to be total stillness. And so curiosity would then be the principle of pulsation. So where is it in us that we want to go toward a total stillness, unmovingness? And where is it that we're willing to pulse and dance? At the end of it all, these are both the same thing. But we can't see that until we've experienced both totally. So the more transcendently driven we are, the less willing we are to see that transcendence is itself pulsation, the less curiosity we have. And the more free-flowing and all into pulse and form and body we are without that touchstone of stillness, again, the less balance there is. Balance is in the divine union of the masculine, which is the container, the stillness, and the feminine, which is pulsation. And curiosity is the key that unlocks the door, that brings us easily between these two states. And then eventually that is the great amplifier and integrates the two entirely. Because embodiment is transcendence. Transcendence is embodiment. And one is not more better, more true or more enlightened than another. But a lot of us have forgotten curiosity. A lot of us have forgotten the pulsation piece. So that's worthy of investigation. Let me know what you think.